Здравствуйте.
Hello, and we want to welcome you from the center of Moscow. Today is a beautiful fall day, no matter the rain. Today we're starting the ecological workshop about the ecosystem around our city of Moscow. And we also will be talking about world health, health of our wonderful nature. How do we live? This is the second experience that we have in Russian Federation. The first experience that we had was excellent. We decided to scale. Now we have more regions. We are widening our geography, and I will tell you about what's about to happen. You can see us on our website. Please pay attention that there is a program, and you can read there every topic that we'll be talking about. There's like first, second, third, and fourth day tabs that you can open, you can read, and figure out our schedule. Lower down, you can see about our speakers, how well respected they are, why should you trust them, what's their names. Since right now we are working with the national program on digitizing our economy, we put together the workshop that is interactive. You could ask questions, you could vote all through the day. We'll be paying attention, and your feedback is extremely important. You will see that little phone, and you will have the little button, ask the questions to the speaker. You will have the button vote, and you will have the button help me with the whatever digital question you may have. If you have problem with sound or video, we have a tech support that's very sizable, and they will take care of every need you have to make sure you're all comfortable and all. Today we'll be talking about methodology of evaluating risks and benefits from ecological factors. Air, our area of dwelling, we walk in there, we eat food, we breathe air, our specific ecology and how it affects our health. The international and European approach, we definitely want to employ them, and we have invited European experts. They will be talking today about AirQ Plus program. They will be talking about the pollution. We will be talking about plotting the pedestrian and other like bicycle traffic. We will be talking about the program of Grimour, and enough of me. We'll now pass the microphone to our VIP speakers. Right now, I would like to invite Evgenia Simutnikova. She's the EO on the City of Moscow Eco Program. Good day, my dear friends. I would like to welcome you on behalf of Government of Moscow from Moscow. Moscow receives an honor to put together the World Health Organization workshop. Moscow became the part of the Regions for Health 2 years ago, and Moscow's participation in that network provides for wide possibilities in applying methodology of World Health Organization in developing ecological and climate policy of our cities. We have very ambitious goals, how to become more attractive to our citizens for this generation and for the generations to come, how to get them healthy, how to bring their attention to their own city, how to apply creative potential. World Health Organization and regions were working and thinking about this for quite some time now. Those program products that now World Health Organization is about to present, these are specific program products that affect our city's policies. They substantiate them. Now, how do we develop public transport, pedestrian and bicycle moves? How do we bring down air pollution to improve health? How to get parks and nature to preserve them? How to create the green areas artificially to provide for eco-services? All these tools will be close at hand over the next 3 days. And now, speaking from Moscow's experience, that World Health Organization politics, from one side, it's very liberal. Any area that has certain ambitions, they can become a part of that movement, apply that methodology. Today we have 25 regions from our country: Moscow region, St. Petersburg area, Volgograd, Kazan, Nizhny Novgorod. I am sorry I did not give you a full list, but those products that we are presenting, it's a modern-day knowledge. Any region that will be part of this will become an expert in order to make sure they can improve that product and share the same methodology. 20 years ago, Moscow has created the unified ecological monitoring system using World Health Organization methodology to make sure that collected data is reliable. That way we can assess the quality of air pollution and how it affects our citizens. And I can tell you, the substantiation of our decision in setting the priorities, ecological priorities today, it's a very high top level scientifically. I want to welcome every region of my country. I want to say thank you to World Health Organization. I do thank you. And I want to thank Francesca Racciope. She is a head of European Center of World Health Organization. I wish the success and successful work, and I say we are ready. I am enthusiastic to continue professional contacts with the regions that participate in implementing WHO methodology, in applying that methodology within their regions. By all means, that will improve our cities.
И мы благодарим Евгению Геннадьевну за такой...
We would like to thank Evgenia Gennadievna for starting in such a beautiful way. We will move to the content. We'll go to Germany, to city of Bonn. I would like to remind our viewers that we have a simultaneous translation. Over here you can see a switch where you can pick the language you like, switching between Russian and English to make sure that you're comfortable and you understand what our speakers are saying. They will be speaking in their own native language, but you will hear the beautiful Russian translation. And finally, let's start, and we'll pass our microphone to WHO head, and she is present in Bonn, Germany, Francesca Racciope.
Hello, good morning, everybody, and what a great pleasure and honor to be with you today. Greetings from Bonn. Here it's a lovely end of the summer day. So good morning, Moscow, but I should say good morning, Russia. We are thrilled, we are excited by this event. We are incredibly humbled by the honor that we are receiving of getting your interest and your attention to our work. So you will allow me to start by thanking from the bottom of our heart Moscow government and in particular the environmental department for their commitment to the collaboration, Anton Kulbachevsky and Madame Eugenia Semtikova. And also the colleagues from Moscow, Dr. Melita Vujnovic and the other team members of the WHO who have worked with us here in Bonn to prepare for these master classes. So why we are so thrilled, why we are so honored, is because it is not every day that we have a chance of working together with one of the only 3 mega cities that we have in Europe. So what happens in Moscow, what happens in the Russian Federation sets inspiration and a precedent for others. The rest of Europe looks at you, and there is a lot that we can do to inspire others. So I feel very thrilled and very humbled because we have an opportunity of working together in these coming few days and see how we can hopefully together put at fruition a package of tools that the WHO has developed to support the cities in their sustainable transformation. I am sure that all of you are familiar with the Sustainable Development Goals. And all of you are familiar with the Sustainable Development Goal 11, which has to do with the making cities inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable. Well, the work that we are going to do together in the rest of the week is exactly about that. The package of tools that we have developed is helping and is meant to help member states and users to make progress towards at least 3 of these goals. The goal 11.2, which is related to the sustainable transport, 11.6, which has to do with air pollution, and 11.7, which has to do with the access to green space. Why are these so important? Because unless we address these issues and unless we address them in an integrated way, we will not be able to make our cities, our urban settlements healthier, safer, and more prosperous, because we do know that where we can offer high quality urban environments, it is where people love to move. It is where business come and make investment. It is where, in the end, economy is going to thrive. So it is not either or, but it is one fundamental to the other. As we have always said, health is a prerequisite and an outcome of the sustainable development. And this is what I hope that we will be doing together. We are also excited because of the variety of expertise and the fact that many of you are coming from such a diverse number of regions and professional backgrounds. So this is something that will enrich our experience, because in a way we are calling upon you to be co-creators of our tools. We are aware that tools are in the making. So we have the ambition, for example, of taking some of them to global scale, as you will see with the health economic assessment tool for walking and cycling. But they only work as long as our intended users are happy and satisfied with them. So we will ask you to be part also of this experiment and to work with us to guide us towards making the tools even more useful and more adapted to your needs. I will also try to link these ones to the big political developments that are going to take place. Pierre Mudu, who is, I can see, is already connected and ready to click the button and start to take you through the RQ Plus. Is working and will be working with you through the masterclass on improving our capacities of measuring the health impacts of air pollution. This is hugely important. Globally, we know that more than 7 million people die every year because of exposure to air pollution. And I wish also to inform you that tomorrow, the World Health Organization will launch at the global scale its updated of the air quality guidelines. So we hope that the RQ Plus will be part of your toolkit as you will be working and continue to work on improving the quality of air in your cities. The second tool that we will demonstrate has to do with transport, sustainable transport and mobility, how we can help policymakers to understand what it means in terms of health benefits to improve our walkability and the cyclability of our cities. We have now a tool that helps us to attach some numbers to it and to calculate. And this is very important because we do know that the transport planners are very much driven by cost-benefit analysis of the investments. So we believe that it is very useful for them to be able to factor in, when they're making their decisions, also the important positive impact that investing in safe cycling and safe walking has on health. And I have to say that we are equally thrilled that in 2025, the Russian Federation will be the host of the next high-level meeting on transport, health and environment. This is a very important policy platform to advance the sustainability of transport. And we were very honored and humbled when the Russian Federation put forward its bid and its kind offer to host the next meeting in 2025. Last but not least, what we have been learning also through the tragic experience of the COVID-related lockdown is that green space matters. Green space matters to the people. Green space matters for health. And as a WHO, we have recently published 2 landmark reports, one highlighting the link between nature and health, and another one providing a systematic analysis of the evidence that links mental health to green and blue spaces. We know that the cities around the world, Moscow and many other Russian cities, are at the forefront of taking advantage of the beauty of the natural environment that exists within the cities to make this even more accessible, even more enjoyable for their own citizens. And the last tool that we will present is a tool which is in development. It is a Green UR, and we hope that will help you to continue on that path. So I think that I am getting to the closure of my introduction to this course and to these days. And I wish to thank once more Moscow, the Moscow government, and all those who have made this event possible, including our interpreters. Please bear with us. Unfortunately, certainly my Russian skills are still inadequate to provide such a talk in Russian. So we are very grateful to the interpreters and for the provision of this service that will help us to communicate with you in the next few days. So I think I will stop here to leave space for jumping into the water. We hope you will enjoy the ride with us, and we hope that you will support us in co-creating a better world for us, for our citizens, and for our children. Thank you very much. Спасибо большое.
Hello, can you hear me? Okay, my name is Pierre Mudu, and I work at the Bonn Environment and Health Center, and I'm very happy that to be here with you, because this is an opportunity, as Francesca was mentioning, to discuss about urban planning from a different perspective. And so I have to thank Nino Sharashidze in our office and the people there in Moscow for having set up such a large group of people. And I'm also happy to discuss technical, I would say, opportunities for collaboration, because I know that in Russia there's been a very long tradition on urban planning, and there are several examples in history about discussion and about solutions that they were thought. So my main task today is to work on air pollution and how to consider air pollution impacts when you are basically planning interventions. I have prepared a few slides. So these slides will introduce you. Some of you maybe were already in December following this introduction, but I have updated the slides, and I think it's important to have a refresh. And then in the afternoon, we will make some calculation together. Please feel free to interrupt me whenever you want, whenever you feel that there is a question that you want to raise. There's no problem. There is no, I'm not offended if I'm interrupted and there is questions. Remember, they're not silly questions. There are always things that people do not understand because I was not clear or because few things are maybe are too quickly presented. So please do not be shy and interrupt me whenever there is something that is unclear. Do I share my screen with the slides in English, or do you go with the slides in Russian from there? Just a question from my side. I see something in the chat, but it's in Russian. My Russian is not so fluent, but I don't have the presentation in Russian. It was translated there, so I think the organizer should share the presentation in Russian, or and I can go through the slides. I can share it in English, but I think there is a Russian version, so the participants should see the. Do you see my screen? Okay. So thanks again for the participation in this workshop. I have prepared the slides that are related, as Francesca was mentioning, with the WHO, the Bonn office that is a specialized center on environment and health, as a tradition of work on tools, and tools are synonymous of software, if you want, for some aspects. But in reality, they are not just simple calculators. They are not just simple software that you put some numbers and you get some results. These tools are much more, I would say, helpful for many different purposes. And you will see with RQ+, but it's the same for HEAT that Francesca was mentioning. And you will see next week when we will talk about green spaces. And so I will present now on RQ+. That is the tool that WHO has developed since 20 years. In 1999, we start the first version of the tool, and then this tool has been, I would say, regularly updated in the last 5 years. So I will tell you how we maintain a tool such as the one that I'm presenting you. I mean, it's a huge work, and it's many people that are needed to participate in the development. As Francesca was mentioning, all the tools that we have are not the work of a single person or of a single office. It's a work of hundreds of people. I want to emphasize this, and Francesca made a very clear point that we could not develop these kind of tools without the support and collaboration of people in many different places of the world. In order to understand the impacts of air pollution on health, it is, first of all, it's important to understand a little bit the terminology. And when we make the study of the impacts of air pollution on health, in English, this is usually called health risk assessment. And health risk assessment is part of the so-called health impact assessment. I have a slide on this just to clarify a little bit the terminology. The second point, and I think is probably one of the most important point, if not the main point when you work on air pollution and on environmental impacts in general, is the fact that you need to have data. And I will go with you about the need of having high quality data that are validated, what kind of sources we have for air pollution data, and how do we link the air pollution data then to health impacts. That's a second set of slides. And the third point is that I will address here. I have, I think, 1 or 2 slides, is about the challenges, the difficulties, the problems, the issues that you have when you do this kind of analysis. And the fourth point, it will be a practical application of RQ+. So we will work together, if we can, with your data in the afternoon, if you have some data, and we will see how we can use this software that is translated in Russian. So there is no need to work in English. And I apologize that I think I'm sharing English slides, but I guess you're just watching the Russian slides. And this will give you today an overview of the whole RQ+. And again, if you have questions, just interrupt me. Sorry, apparently the slides were not popping up. Is it now okay? Do you see the slides? Okay, so let me. Okay, so I see somewhere there in my screen that you have the Russian translation. So for those that are new to RQ+, this will cover an introduction to the software. For those that have already gone through the to RQ+ and they know RQ+, there will be the chance to see some features that are a little bit more advanced than the usual features that are usually considered. And there will be also the possibility to have a question and answers about real, I would say, real work and things that you are involved. So I'm here also to answer your questions about practical solutions for things that you are doing. And the first set of slides is on health risk assessment. I was mentioning you before that what we are going to do with modeling air pollution values and understanding how they impact health in a place is called health risk assessment. And WHO, the Bonn office, our office, published after an expert consultation a very nice booklet that is Health Risk Assessment of Air Pollution General Principles. In this booklet, we have been going through all the main problems, all the main positive kind of effects that you can have when you do an health risk assessment of air pollution and the benefits that can be calculated when you change policies. The software that are available, I mean, our software is not the only one in the planet, RQ+, but there are other software. So there's a lot of discussion in this booklet. And there is a definition of a health risk assessment for air pollution that is quite clear. So we want to estimate the risk of past, of current or future exposure to air pollution and of changes in exposure that may result from planned policies or other modifications of air quality. So we are now entering really on the matter. we want to do is understanding how our policies, the conditions of this place where we live, or our city, our region, or a country, if you want, are affected by the levels of air pollution. And we want to we need a tool. We need to model the values that we have now in order to do predictions, if you want, short-term prediction, long-term predictions. And this is something that is very clear for planners. I mean, people that have been working in master plans, they know very well how much they have to work on the urban standards, how much they have to work on calculating density of people living in blocks, and then on transport, how to model all these kind of things. And so for you that are working in urban planning, this is something that is, I would say, quite familiar. The only difference that we will have with this tool and not with the tool that we have on green space is that here we are working with a kind of large scale, in the sense that we can model a city. We can even model at much more detail than a city. So the geography matters, but until a certain extent. So there are more limitations for the modeling. So I'm talking to the planners, to the people that do planning. There's a different approach, obviously, when you're working, for example, with a geographical information system, or if you're working with a tool that I would say is aspatial, so it does not consider space primarily. This is an important piece, but the fact that the tool we are using is not explicitly spatial does not mean that we cannot use it for for urban planning, for some planning in different zones, in different areas. But then we have to consider also the diffusion of air pollution. We have to consider the topography of the city. So we have to do some considerations. I'm open to discussion on this also for people that are working in particular in planning. I was mentioning, okay, go back to the slide before, sorry. Health risk assessment. Basically, we want to work on air pollution, on a substance, basically, that can give us an indication of the air pollution in a place. And health risk assessment, it's part of health impact assessment, in the sense that when you have a policy, if it is a policy that is changing, is modifying the environment, it's modifying the buildings in a neighborhood, there's new construction and new highways. In many cases, it is advisable, it is recommended to have an health impact assessment of the new work that you are carrying out, because there will be consequences on the population. And these consequences are clear. For example, if you build a large highway crossing a neighborhood, there will be problems of accidents if it is not well built, if there's no visibility at some crossroads. There will be problems of noise, there will be problems of air pollution. So the modifications that you are doing in your environment are, in some cases, are clear. Some other cases are much more complicated to calculate. But these modifications can be also beneficial, because you can move from, instead of building an highway, you can close an highway and you create a bicycle path that goes crossing a neighborhood. And then you can have there the need to do an health impact assessment. An health impact assessment is basically an investigation of how this new intervention, this change, is going to affect the people living in the place where they are. And in order to do so, you can have an health risk assessment, so a quantitative assessment of the risk of air pollution to the population. You can also have a qualitative assessment. You can also have, an interview of experts. You can have a sociologists, social scientists working with focus groups, for example, interviewing few few people. So there are many different ways to do health impact assessment, and then if you do something like an highway, as I was mentioning before, there are also changes in the water system. Could be that you have to change all the sewage, and there are changes in the soil. So it's much broader kind of perspective that you have to take into account. So health risk assessment for air pollution will be part of that work of health impact assessment. But in order to do so, you need data. So you need what are data? Data are information that we have on the environment and on the people. And this information, they come usually from official data. So they are produced officially from an institution, from a government, from a city. Or some other times they are taken irregularly. They can be taken officially irregularly, or they can be taken in other forms. They can be taken because of a project. So the need of data is obviously, I would say, the basis for running an health risk assessment. And I have now, I'm going now to the core of the analysis of air pollution. Air pollution impact on health are based on 4 different data. And these data are air pollution. Obviously, we are dealing with air pollution, so we need data on air pollution concentrations. And the second data that we need is the population. How many people are exposed to the levels of air pollution? So these are the 2 ingredients that we need. But without having health data, we cannot say how much air pollution is affecting the population. So if we do not know how many people are dying every year, for example, in a place, or how many people are going to the hospital because of respiratory or cardiovascular diseases, we cannot make a model. We cannot model the levels of air pollution in relation to the health of the population. In order to also to model the levels of air pollution in relation to the health of the population, we need to have a risk function. So we need to have some epidemiologists, some mathematicians that tell us, look, when you go from this level here of air pollution to this level there, the probability, the risk that you are increasing the mortality is of 3%, 4%, 5%, 6%, or 10%, whatever, okay? So these are the 4 ingredients. Without these ingredients, you cannot run any model for air pollution impact assessment. Once you have your ingredient, you have to put them in a logic that gives you an idea or how to put them together and what you want to reach. So the fact that you have air pollution data and you have a population data means that you put them together and you have the exposure of the population. So what is exposure? Basically, I think in all the manuals, exposure is described as the contact of a person, of an individual, or of a group of people with a contaminant, in this case, with a pollutant. So how much time you spend in touch or in contact with something that can be harmful for you. So this is the usual definition of exposure. So you have the pollution data, you have the people that are exposed to this air pollution data. So you have to do an exposure assessment. So you need to know how many people are exposed to some levels of air pollution. Once you do that, you can then use some risk function to say, look, these people are exposed to these levels of air pollution. What if these levels of air pollution are lower? Usually you hope that there will be a better future, or there will be a policy that is lowering the air pollution data, the air pollution values. It is true that in some cases unfortunately, the air pollution concentration levels have been increasing. So this is literally building scenarios. And there is a fifth ingredient then that I'm introducing to you now. There is the need to have a level that you judge as a level that is protective for public health. So a level where you do not have health consequences, or a level that is a target of a policy. I don't know, you are at a level of 30, you want to go with a decrease of 10%. So it means that your level, it means moving so from 30 to 27. If you think, for example, for PM 2.5. And this target policy of reduction of 10% means that you want to have a counterfactual, you want to have a cutoff, a level by which you will not have health consequences, at least in your calculations, that is established. And once you have decided the cutoff, you need to have the background data of the health of the population. Places in the world are very different in terms of health conditions. And there are places where the mortality is very high because there is an elderly population that is quite high. There are places where there is mortality that is related to some communicable diseases more than others. So all this health background of the population is affecting the results, because at the end, what you want to do is understanding how much of the mortality is due to air pollution, how many people you can avoid to die prematurely because of air pollution, or how many people are going to the hospital because of air pollution. So you need to have this in mind when you produce your estimates. And so I have put here what are basically the main steps in health risk assessment of air pollution. And I don't know if there are questions. Again, please feel free to interrupt me whenever you have a question. I'm moving to RQ Plus now because what I have told you is it was put in RQ Plus. And again, this is not just a software to make calculations. There's a lot of information that you will see in the software that are useful for considering air pollution policies. So RQ Plus is a user-friendly software to estimate the magnitude of the most important and best recognized effects of air pollution in a given population. So this is the definition of RQ Plus. But I have put also in the slide, you see in the bottom of the slide, that, as I was saying, that you can use RQ Plus for educational purposes or for training activities. So it's just not a calculator. The functions that RQ Plus has are much broader, and it is used, for example, in universities or in public health school or planning schools to discuss the implications of planning on the health of the people. And it is important to know that this tool was developed by the World Health Organization, and there was the support of German government in the last few years. And this is, as I was saying before, it's an update. It's a complete rewriting and redevelopment of the software that we have been using since 1999, and it was RQ. And we changed RQ in RQ Plus in 2015. This is important for you to know because there are papers, there's a lot of publications that were done in the past with RQ. And we are reviewing now all the publications that use between 1999 and 2015 RQ, just to see how people use the software. And we have found more than 150 publications done in all different places of the world. So now we are working on that, just to see how people use the old software. And we will do the same exercise next year, when we will have RQ Plus for 5 years already out. And so this is a list of the history of the development of the software. We released the first version of RQ Plus in May 2016, and it was only in English. And we had requests from people that are Russian speaker, and we translated the software after a year. It was also translated and available in Russian. And to cut it short, in a few months ago, we released a new version. Now it's working in also in French and in German. And there are new features in the software, for example, for the graphical interface, and the possibility to see the output in a more detailed way. So if you see, we've been able to release the software 5 different versions, basically in 5 years. So there is a version every year. So we keep updating the software. We want to have the people working with the most advanced knowledge that there is on air pollution. And we need to have experts involved. And we now have the feedback of hundreds of users that have been working with the software. If you see this slide with this is the use of the web, the access to the page of RQ Plus on the web. So if you go on the internet and you write RQ Plus, you will land to a web page. I don't know if I can share my screen also. Let me see. I don't know if you see. Did you see I'm in internet now? I'm not sure. Okay, I was in Google and I just wrote RQ Plus. And if you see, RQ Plus is the first entry that I find in Google. And if you click the web page, you see that, okay, I'm now in an English web page, but in reality, there is also in Russian. On the right side, I can click Russian. So I have a description of the software for Russian speakers. And then you can download the software here. Okay, and there is also the manuals here. So I go back to the slide now. I don't know if you see my slides now, but these are the statistics for the visit of the web page. And I'm giving you this slide just to give you an idea of the fact that we are monitoring the use of the software. And it is important that when you use the software, you have the possibility to send us feedback in writing. So it is important now that I'm with you, because I will take note of all the questions that you will raise. But it is also important that whenever you have time, if you're working with the software, and if you're interested in the software, after you use the software, you can take a survey. I think it was visible here, also in the Russian web page. So we got 474 questions, responses to the survey that we have online. The survey can be done in 3-4 minutes. It's very easy. You will see now, I will show you the results of the survey because this has implications for the work you do and the work also we do. And it will give you an idea of how we have been developing the software based on the feedback of the users. 474 responses in 5 years. There are not many. We have thousands of users, but these are the people that did it voluntarily. So nobody's forced to take the survey. You can download the software and use it. It's free, no problem. And but it's true that we appreciate if people go through the survey because they can give us suggestions and they give us a lot of information. So the people that have compiled the survey, that have answered to this survey, are the people that are basically the most motivated. So are users that have more interest probably in the software. And so they are not representative of all the users, but they are representative of the users that are the one working with the software. And I give you now, these are the latest statistics of the use of the software from users. So we know that users are been working in 282 cities. I have mapped here in GIS the cities where they were working. At the beginning, there were 150 cities the first year, but then they become now they are covering literally most of the planet. And Europe is the place where we have most of the users, but many users are also in Asia and in Latin America. And this is quite important because now we have the software that is used also in approximately 100 countries in the world. So these cities are giving an idea that the software is used in most of the countries in the world. And this is a web page that I have just shown you before. It's easy to go there. I have put the link also in the slide. And it is important now to think, okay, what do we do with the fact that we have people answering to this survey? So first of all, we know that there are people using the software in 100 countries, so they cover the whole planet. And there are no other software to our knowledge that do the same, except for a software that is developed in the United States that is called BandMap. It is developed by the United States Environmental Protection Agency. It's a very sophisticated software, and it has been maintained in the last 20 years. And so in terms of use, it is less used than Hercule Plus, but is a software that has also GIS functionalities within. So it is more sophisticated in terms of also of the requirements for the use of it. And BandMap is it produced the same results of Hercule Plus, I have to tell you. And we every time there is a software that is in the market or is available, or some institution they are producing, we check if we produce the same results, and we check what kind of modeling they have. So we try to see what's happening. Also, we are not just focusing on our software and that's it. We see what's happening in the rest of the planet, and this is important because I have given you this boring and annoying 10 minutes about the history of the software, but this is important because you have to keep in mind that this software has been going on for 20 years and is full of, if you go on the internet, you will find another 100 software that will put air pollution and health. But most of these software, they have done from students, PhD students, or postdoc students, or some professors, or some institutions, but they live 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, and then there is no maintenance, there is no update, and you don't know what to do with that software. So it's important that you are relying here on a long-term kind of idea that we want to have people working on air pollution health impacts. And we need to do it with the support of people from all different origins, from all different countries and places. And we need to have experts also around us. And I'll show you, when I show you the software, you will see also, I think we listed some of the experts that have been helping us. But one of the most important thing is the feedback from the user. So later, literally, if you have questions of any kind, they will be really appreciated. Here, the geographical level of the analysis of the users is mainly local. This was a discovery for us. When we had in the past RQ, we were always thinking about a news at the national level. That was the main request at the early year 2000, 2001, 2002, 2003. 2004, we had the first version of RQ that was online, not in an Excel format, but it was written in another language. And then 2005, I think 2005, we had a version that was mainly addressing and asking calculations at country level, thinking that people were working with that in mind. But then we discovered along the years that, and this was confirmed when we have this survey, that people are more interested probably to work at a local level than at a regional level, and a little bit less at the national level. And this has obviously a lot of implications that you will see with the software when we will play a little bit, when we will use it together. So that was the first thing. So the use for cities, basically. Second thing is that people are working in not very small cities. They're interested in working in cities that are 1 million people or more. So I would say middle scale large scale cities. And then there's also a user that work with small cities that are between 100,000 and 1 million. You will see how this has implications. This is important because in the last few years, I was mentioning that we had done a database for the use of RQ between 1999 and 2017. That was the last year that people were doing calculation with the old software. Now, since 2016, people are using RQ+, the people that are downloading the software. And they have started also publishing articles. I have just created a slide with some articles that I was sent by people. So one is done a modeling in Iran. So mortality and morbidity, economic burden due to PM2.5 and ozone. Then we have a long-term exposure to ambient PM2.5 and impacts on health in Rome, in Italy. Then I found another paper that was done in Bosnia and Herzegovina. Then there is a paper where there is an application of RQ Plus in Spain. And this is a paper that I was mentioning you before, BenMap. There are many people that use BenMap. It's the most sophisticated software for the modeling of air pollution impacts. And after many years, as they have been developing that software also for 20 years, so it's it's a long-term project. We were interested in doing the following. We gave the people of BenMap the same data set we were modeling, and we modeled this data set with BenMap and with RQ Plus to see if we were producing the same results. So we ended up with the same results, and this was, I think it's quite important because the methodologies, the mathematics that is behind this use of air pollution and health data is agreed, is the same. It's not that if you take another software, you will produce different results. So you will have a different mortality because of their pollution policies. No, you have the same, exactly the same results. But then, as I was mentioning before, for example, BenMap, you need to use a geographical information system there. It's much more sophisticated and is calibrated on the United States data. So it's quite different, but it's important that we did this experiment. And another thing is that we have a report where we had an application of RQ Plus for Serbia. This is a report that we have done in the office. Usually we do not do country by country kind of estimates, but there was a request there because they gather very interesting data for, if I'm not wrong, 11 cities in Serbia. So we could model the air pollution and health data for 11 cities. And it was quite important also because the level of air pollution are quite high in Serbia. So the report was a way to work with people there, local authorities and environmental institutions, and also to raise awareness of the problem of air pollution. I'm going now on the presentation of the software. I stop here anyway. If there are questions, I don't know because I don't see the chat for my screen. I'm not sure if there are questions. Please let me know. I understand no questions. Everything is clear. Again, if there any question is okay. There are no stupid questions, silly questions. All the questions are relevant and important. Whatever you did not understand or whatever information you may need or you may ask, there's no problem.
Thank you. There is no question.
Okay. So I'm moving to the RQ Plus. This is the main screen. This is the welcome screen, and you see that here I'm seeing the main thing is the bottom on the top right side, where there is the language option. And here you can switch from English to Russian to French or German. So the software, the programmers put the software in English. When you download it, it's a compressed file. And you can you need to decompress. You need to unzip it. Once you unzip it, you just click on the executive file to use it. You can also use it on a USB stick, so you don't need to install it in your machine. This is a software that it's self-standing software. It is written in the Java language. It's a language that is basically allows you to work without install it in your machine. So I usually work with the software in a USB stick, so I don't need even to carry a computer. I can go and use whatever computer I have in front of me or I have available. So this is the main screen of RQ Plus. And I just gave you an idea of the fact that you can change language. So if you go from English to Russian, you will see this later because I will do it. But I just repeat it for people. Maybe can be useful to know that. So you download it, you unzip it, you start the software, and then you see that here on the right side you have the language option. You go to Russian, so you select Russian, you close the software, you open it again, and it is in Russian. We will do it later. And the only thing I have in this slide that I think it is important is the fact that you have a documentation, basically an area where you have a documentation for the software. So there is a glossary, there is a link to the manuals. I'll go to the manuals soon. And then there is some how to cite the software if you use it. Then there is, if you click and you will see what is RQ+, how to start working on RQ+, and acknowledgement. So all the people that work to the development of the software and that made suggestions are here. And there is an analysis kind of area where if you have a question that you want to answer, here you have to think, okay, in my case, what I want to do with the software, what is my problem with air pollution here? And on the left side, on the top left side, you have the menu that you can use for your projects when you create projects and you work with the software. And then here at the bottom, you have the version of RQ+. Here it's the version 2.1. And this is just to know which version you are working with. One thing that I think is important to discuss now, because we will go back to this when working with the software, is the data availability. That is something that is probably the main problem when working. Is the fact that there is a lack of data for air pollution in many cases, and there is a lack of data for health data in many other cases, and this is something that you have to consider, and we have to discuss. I think also later when we do some applications of the software. Data availability is probably the main problem, but there are other issues that you have to consider. Another issue is related to the uncertainty of the model that you are building, and this in a way goes back to the availability of data. So if data are crap, if the data are not good, obviously the scenarios you're building, the impacts you are calculating are affected by the quality of the data. But then there is also an uncertainty that is related to the mathematics, to the risk functions, to the use of the risk functions. And you will see how we deal with that. And there is a third point that is probably the main, I would say, one of the main problems that we have is about communication. So how do you communicate what you're doing to a large public, to politicians, to decision makers? And this is something that is not easy to handle. And this is, I would say, is part of the work that we are doing also together. Let's see how far we can go in modeling the data and giving some orientation, some recommendations, some suggestions for people to understand what's happening in relation to air pollution. So again, there are three main challenges. I mean, there are more challenges, but I think these are the three main. So data availability, so the fact that you have data and they are of good quality. And we go back to this when we work with RQ+. The second point is uncertainty. So all your estimates are not precise measurements, are just models. So there is I would say some kind of confidence that you have in the estimates that you are doing, and you have to measure that. And you will see this also in the application when we will apply RQ+. And the third point, and this is not only related to air pollution, it is related to a lot of other environmental issues, and when people are working in planning, is related to communication, how to communicate results, how to communicate the work that you're doing. And this is something that we can address a little bit when we will have, in the afternoon, we will have a session where we will do some calculations together. I was showing before the web page of RQ+, and at the bottom of the web page, there is the link to download 5 manuals, and the 5 manuals are also translated in Russian. I think I'm showing you the slide in English. I'm not sure if it was translated in Russian. I should have used the Russian covers, but in any case, there are 5 manuals that we have developed in a kind of sequential way. The first manual is the introduction, and the first manual is exactly what the 70% of the users, and probably you are among these users, will do when they take RQ+. So the first manual is an introduction to RQ+, telling you, look, this is what most of the people do with the software. This is the basic, but this is also probably the most important thing you need to know. And then we develop a second manual that is for regular users, so people that work on air pollution and planning and health on a regular basis. For regular basis, I mean, in my experience, people that work every 2 weeks or every month regularly on the impacts of air pollution. I'm not saying daily, although there are people working daily on air pollution data, because the people that are, for example, monitoring air pollution, they work daily on air pollution data. And the second manual is targeting this audience of people that they need to do a lot of different analysis. They need to know multiple analysis with input of data constantly with many different areas, for example. So they can divide the city in districts, or a region, they divide it in provinces or counties, or how do you want to call them, okay? And so these are the people that need to input many data, and they don't want to do just one analysis every 3-4 months or every year. And this is a small percentage of our users. It's very relevant in any case. That's why we develop a single manual for them. And I will give you an example of the use of this manual later for more advanced users, because I think there is the need to understand how far you can go with the software. And this second manual will give you an idea also of dealing with a spatial information. So I was saying that the software is not, you don't have maps, but in reality, you can also use information at a geographical level to interface your results, your data with a GIS. That's the second manual. The third manual, the one that is on live table manual, is a manual that is targeting the most advanced users these are the users that are very, I would say, very high level of competence in epidemiology, in demography, and mathematics. We use live tables, so you need to have a different data set compared to the other calculations. What is different? You need to have a live table. So I'll show you in the afternoon, I'll show you why this is advanced and also the advantages of having this kind of calculation. This is done by 1% of the user, 5% now probably is increasing, and it gives you a lot more of information and a lot of more of capacity also to intervene in the communication. But this the mathematics is advanced, and you need data at the level of building a live table. So this is the third manual. Then we have a manual that is for the people that are interested in the burden of disease calculations. And I will go on this issue later when I'll show you now in the next few minutes when I will show you the software. Then we have a fifth manual that is really, this is for 1% of people that are interested in carcinogenicity of air pollution. And we created this a module that works with air pollutants that are carcinogenic. And we have decided to do this module because there were many people that were doing these calculations. Although these calculations are not really the best calculation you should do for the air pollution, for health risk assessment of air pollution. And I will tell you why while using the software. I will show you. There are different kind of calculations. And I was mentioning that is just 1% of users that are using these calculations. And we see them as a kind of not fundamental part of the use of the software. But it's something that could be of interest in discussions. But there it is just for very specific cases. And I have to say that all the calculations that you do with carcinogenic air pollutants are already done in the usual main calculations that you can do with a PM 2.5, for example. So that's something that is as a different kind of approach, and is I would say is just it can give you some added information about the situation that you are dealing with, but it's not really the main kind of calculation you should do. We have inserted that because there were some issues in people were using this kind of approach quite often. And this is related also to communication. And I don't know how it is in Russia, but I guess it's not different from other parts of the world. So we had in Europe, there were places where people that were saying, oh, look, here everybody's dying because of cancer. Here we have a very polluting industry. There is a big highway where there are cars every day, every hour. And then they were doing this kind of calculation with carcinogenic air pollutants. And the calculation usually done were wrong. And after a few years, we said, okay, it's better, even if we do not recommend the use of this kind of calculation, to give the people an idea of how to make the right calculation for carcinogenic air pollutants. That's so the origin of this manual. And I'm sorry, I don't remember if we had a coffee break. Sorry. So it will be 1 hour, right? Okay, perfect. So again, if there are questions, please go with the questions. And no problem to interrupt me. I am showing now a slide on the current activities that we are doing. So the work that we are currently doing is related to several different things. The first is a review of the methodologies, the methods used for estimating burden of disease calculations and impact calculations. And some of you may know that there are integrated exposure functions, and there are also general exposure mortality models that were developed in the last few years. So the methods are more or less the same, so there will be no change in the methodologies in reality, but we will adopt, we are testing a risk function that people can use for their calculations. So this is a work that we are doing. So if you see in the internet, the integrated exposure functions are already implemented in RQ+. But the GEM model, for example, if you see in the internet, a GEM model that was developed by a statistician in Canada that is called Rick Burnett, it were presented, when was it? 4 years ago, if I'm not wrong. And we have waited to see if this model was adopted and it was used. And this is the case. So we are now considering to insert it in RQ+. We have, this is a specific area of work that I'm pointing you out. And this is part of technical discussions that we have constantly, regularly with experts and all the people that are interested in the software. So we take into account all the kind of input that we receive and feedback. So one was exactly on the use of GEM, for example. That's why I put GEM here in the first point. Third point, and it is something that is quite relevant, is the possibility to produce economic estimates of the impacts of air pollution. So this is, we started working on this already more than 2 years ago. And you can understand that it is very important, and it is also difficult at the same time. Because you can relate air pollution to health, and then you for example, you calculate the mortality, the effects on mortality, how many premature deaths are due to air pollution levels that you have in a city. But then, how much is the cost for the health system of these impacts? How much is the cost for society? And this is just an area of work where the possibilities are different. So there is not one single methodology, and we have to work with all the economists and people that are environmental specialists in order to see what kind of methodology we can implement in the software. So in the last 2 years, we have been discussing this, and some of this discussion is part of the discussion that you will see for the HEAT tool for walking and cycling. And HEAT is advanced in that discussion, and already they have a value of statistical life that is applied in the software. And we are, in RQ+, we are probably putting the same kind of approach, plus different possibilities for the users. Why I'm saying different possibilities? Because in economic, you can have some kind of measurements that are based, on the so-called willingness to pay, and these are related to the value of statistical life. But it is true that people are interested in the cost. So how much these levels of air pollution cost me for medicines, for going to the hospital, for not being able to work and stay home. So there are different ways of doing this kind of estimates. There are a lot of uncertainties. There are a lot of different methods. But this is the discussion that we are having on this for the economic module. So we are now designing. We have already designed an architecture for the module. It will be probably available only in English, at least for the beginning, because it's we have to see how it works and if people are able to understand it clearly. And I think next year we will have probably the first test, and probably will be available as soon as we have also some examples and something that we can show to people for the use of the module. The fourth point that I already mentioned basically is an harmonization of WHO tools. So there is the HEAT tool on walking and cycling, and we have another tool that is available online that works with climate change, with the commitments that are done at a national level to fulfill Paris agreements. And so basically what we do with is called Carbon-H, is called the tool, the software. We model the implications of declaring a reduction of CO2 for a country in the next years until 2030. We model them, we translate them in PM 2.5 reductions. So we go from CO2, from climate pollutant, to an air pollutant, and then we calculate the health impacts and the economic impacts. And so we need to see the RQ+, we need to see HEAT, we need to see Carbon-H, how they produce similar results when they have similar inputs, how they deal with the fact that there are different methodologies, and we need to give a consistent message to the user. So this is a work that is ongoing always, and it's I think it's very important. You will see maybe next week when I will present you Green UR, I will give you an idea of the work that we are doing for the climate software, just for you, for your information. I think it's quite could be quite important. Then the current activities are related to online training activities, and this is part of an online training. If you want, it's a workshop, but it's the idea of using these tools is something that in the past, until before COVID, we were giving training, in-person training for 2-3 days, and working workshops where we were working with local authorities or national authorities. Now, with this crazy world of COVID, we have to work online. And I have to tell you that working online is not really the best of the option, particularly for technical work. And why I'm saying this, because I have been doing workshop in person and workshop online. And basically in person, the learning process is much higher than online. The possibility of interaction is obviously not comparable to an online training. And there are technical aspects that is very difficult to discuss online because the screen is small. If we see formulas, if we see maps, it's not easy to work with a small screen. So this is something anyway that we are doing, and this year we have already done, I think, 7 or 8 of this training. And we hope next year this training will go back with people in the same place and together. This really facilitates also the problem solving. If people have troubles with their data, that's much easier than doing something online where people have their computer is not working because I don't know what button they have pressed and things like that. Another point that we are working is on languages translation. This is the only software in the planet, for sure, that is available in different languages. We have done a translation in Polish very recently. That will be out, if I'm not wrong, next week, but will be out very soon. And we had a lot of requests to have a translation in Spanish and in Portuguese. But let's see. I mean, the most important thing is to have the software and the methodologies working well, and then we also go work on translation. We have, as I was mentioning, we are analyzing the use of the software, and this is very helpful because we are trying to identify examples of papers, of reports, where people can understand in a real case situation what they can do with RQ+, but what they can do in terms of thinking about the impacts of air pollution in the place where they are, and how they can change, they modify, as Francesca was saying, how we can improve the place where we are living. That's the main idea. I mean, it's not only SDGs that is really at the planet level, but it's also at the local level. And this is something that I think beginning of next year, we will have, I think, one report on where we will give an idea of what are the main mistakes, what are the good practices when you do air pollution modeling for health in a city. And then there is the last point is on dissemination activities. With all now everybody living in a virtual planet, is going to a conference, is basically going in front of a screen, and we have done also this. So we have been active in presenting our work in different conferences, and this is something that will go on in the next months. So I'm going to start now in a minute a practical application of RQ+. So basically now we will spend another half hour on the basic of the software, and we will do also one calculation. One of the things that I have to tell you, when we start in 2015, when we start the meetings to redevelop the software, is that we had an agreement that the software should be able to produce in 10-15 minutes one analysis. I'm saying this because I think we are quite proud of the fact that we need 10 minutes, 15 minutes to show to someone that is unaware of air pollution and health how they can produce some results with the software. This means that the software is simple to use, and this means that I don't need to spend 3 days to explain the mathematics, the formulas, and then people are lost in a difficult software. So I need in reality 10 minutes to show one estimate, to do one estimate. And what I'm gonna do now is just I'm opening. Just give me a second. I'm opening I'm opening RQ Plus. So we will work on the software from now on, basically, and I will use only the slides for one example. So I don't know if you can see my screen now with the online version of RQ Plus. Okay, if you see my screen, you see the this is the folder of where I have RQ Plus. Okay. So I'm using now the Windows version, but we have version also for Linux and for people that use the Macintosh. So after you download the software, you have release version, and you have your version that you have to unzip. And once you unzip the version, you will create this structure. So there are 3 folders. The first one is the one where there is the software, the written software. Sorry, I have to drink some water. And so this is the first folder that is created. The second folder is about the documents that are coming with the software, and I'll show you them now with running the software. Third folder, that is quite important, and you will see how and why, is a test data. So if I click on test data, I have a list. I have how many data sets here? 8 files where I have data that I can use to do calculations, and these data are modeled in the manuals. So that's important. You know where the data are in this folder, test data. And now I would start using RQ Plus. So I'm double clicking RQ Plus exe. So this is the executive file. Just a second, it's opening in my screen, and I will move the software. I don't know if you can see the software. Let me know if you can see the software. Yes, okay. I think you can see the software. The first thing I do with the software, I'm gonna change the language. Okay, so I have clicked the top right button, and you see there's English, Russian, French, and German. And I am now clicking Russian. So you see I have changed the language, and I now need to restart the software. Okay, so I am now closing the software, and again I go back to here to RQ Plus. I restart the software. So now the software will be launched in Russian. So I have clicked again RQ Plus exe. Now, if you see my screen, this is RQ Plus in Russian. Okay, sorry, I need some water. And there were some analyses that I have already done, and I will show you what this is the project part, and I will go back to this part very soon. But the first thing you have to see is the fact that I was mentioning before, and please play with this. Here you have information about the development of the software. If you click on these are the terms of use of the software, and then here there is a link to the manuals, and here if I click here I get a document that is a glossary. So we have the possibility here to see the main keywords and what is their definition. Okay, so what is benzoypyrene, for example, and here you see PM. So the different definition of particulate matter. And this is, I was mentioning before, the global exposure mortality model, a model that we want to implement, but is very famous, developed by this scientist, this statistician, Burnett from Canada. And what else? Here you find also the definition of years lived with disabilities. This is something that we want to implement very soon. So the work on DALIs. And there are different also here on the risk, how the software works in terms of definition of risk. What are the integrated response exposure functions? So here you find literally the main definitions that you need to ought to know, or you need to check if you don't remember them. And so this gives ozone here an idea of all the different areas of work that we have been covering for the development of the software. And at the end, there is a list of references for those that are interested in understanding. For example, here coming up is the effects of long-term exposure to particulate air pollution, is an important paper report for life table analysis. And what else? And here there is a report on black carbon from the US EPA. Here there are papers and reports that we have written in the past, and are important because the quantification of health impacts are based on this work that has already started 20 years ago. So I can close the glossary. Each one of you can open the glossary from the top right button here. And I go to the main screen. So what is RQ+? And here you see what I was explaining you before, put in a very simple way. And there is also at the bottom of this page, so we are in what is RQ+. So you see, I click, I am what is RQ+. There is a very important table that I can open just by clicking here, this link. So by clicking this link, I open a table where I have a list of the pollutants and a list of the health endpoints. So this is important. Something that I have not mentioned before, but you will see now, is the fact that we give you a tool, then you can use the tool with your data. And we suggest you to make some calculations. But for example, you can decide to do different calculations, but this is up to you. So you have then must be able to defend what you're doing with scientific expertise or papers written about what you're doing. Just to make an example here, you see we have mortality, total mortality for adults, okay? And this is related to PM2.5, to NO2, and this is black carbon, if I'm not wrong. But if you could use it for PM10, if you have risk functions, or you think, oh, I want to use them for PM10, you can do it. And but our suggestion is to use the software with these for these health impacts that we have listed here. So in relation to mortality and in relation to hospitalization and morbidities. So this is a table that comes up when you are in what is RQ Plus, and gives you, I would say, an idea of where we are with the suggestions that WHO gives. I have to be now. I have to say that in the next months we will update this table, because their quality guidelines will be presented tomorrow. So there are a few changes that we have to do, and there's the work has progressed quite a bit, and we have been suggesting so far functions and work related to the ERAPIE project. There was a project done in Europe on concentration response functions in relation to different air pollutants. And we have been suggesting and using this, the results of these projects so far, but now with their quality guidelines out and with the new new evidence of an agreement on concentration response functions, we will update the software, but the software is valid. So the all the calculations you're doing now, they are valid also tomorrow. But you have to keep an eye to be I would say to check what's going on, because there will be for sure a new version coming in the next months. And so what is RQ Plus? And the second here small group of information is related to getting started. So how to start using the software. I will show you also now before we go on a coffee break, the use of how to use the to make one simple calculation. And so you are now familiar with the kind of data that you need, and it is important to read the getting started, because you will also understand that this kind of software is not cannot be used for kind of emergency situations. For example, if you have an explosion of an industry in a place, and then there is the big release of an air pollutant, this is not the software you should use. There are other software that do the kind of risk analysis when you have, for example, an industrial accident, or if you have the burning of a forest for 2 days in a place. This is not the kind of software that you may use. This software is based on epidemiological studies done putting in relation air pollution and health. And epidemiological studies that have done this are basically of two kinds. they are or time series or cohort studies. In time series, you basically follow the levels of air pollution, so the changing levels hour by hour, day by day. And then you check the mortality and the morbidity and hospitalization day by day, hour by hour. And then you put in relation these two data, obviously with a statistical model. So you have to take into relation. I mean, if you're a statistician, you put your variable are your morbidity outcome in relation to the levels of air pollution, but then in the model, you have to consider all the other variables that are confounders, that are related, that they can be part of the health outcome. For example, mortality equal levels of air pollution plus, I don't know, temperature and age of the population and all that kind of things. So at the end, you find your short-term effects. And these are effects that you calculate along a year anyway. And this is a way to proceed. But another way to proceed is something very different and is much more expensive also, and is much more complicated to do. And there are not many places where doing this. It's doing a cohort study. So what is a cohort? It's a group of people that you basically follow for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, even more. And this group of people in many cases can be even millions, can even be 50 millions of people. There is a cancer society in the United States that I don't know if there are 65 million people that are followed because of cancer. And with a cohort, so you take a group and you follow them along the years, usually they're adults. And then you will see how in the different groups experience health outcomes in relation to the air pollution levels that they have in the place where they live. And this data will give you basically the long-term impacts of air pollution. And the long-term impacts are the most relevant impacts that you have to consider. So in 1 year, because of the exposure, to air pollution, you have these results on mortality, for example. And you will see the software is using all the cohort studies, all the results of cohort studies that are analyzed by experts in order to give you estimates. So this is the getting started. I suggest you to go through what is RQ Plus and also getting started in order to have an idea of the use of the software. And then there is the acknowledgement. I just click on the acknowledgement just to show you that the list of people that have been working on the software in the last few years is in the order of 100 different people from all over the world. And we have received feedback from people that are living in different places and they're working in different institutions. So this is something that you have to keep in mind. This is not just a work of one or two people. It's a work of many staff at WHO and also people involved in different institutions. The other thing that is important that I was mentioning before is the question you want to answer when you are using the software. So one question, the first question is probably the question that most of the users have in mind. Is like, okay, if there is a modification, there is a change of the exposure because of a policy, because of something happening, what are the health impacts? What are the health effects that I can associate to these changes? And this is, I would say, 70% of the cases are covered with this kind of analysis. So usually I click here and I start the analysis for the health impacts. And you see here, I have an information button. So somewhere there are documents, there are information button, just to clarify what are we doing here, okay? And this is the software has been developing along the years, also based on questions by many users. Users were saying, I don't know what to do when I open the software. So the first version of the software, the 1.0 software RQ Plus in 2016, for 2 years, there was a screen just with the what is RQ Plus, getting started, and acknowledgement. Then there were users that were saying, oh, look, I'm not sure about what am I supposed to do? And that's why we have put then kind of 3 questions that we saw the users were trying to answer using this software. So the first question is addressing the main calculation that are done almost everywhere. But there is a second question that we have put here. It's about the burden of air pollution. In many cases, if you read newspapers and if you are aware of the discussions on air pollution, you see that sometimes you read air pollution is killing 7 million people all over the planet every year. Or I don't know, in the European Union, there is 500,000 people dying because of air pollution every year. So these kind of statements, these kind of sentences are related to the so-called calculations of the burden of disease. And what are you doing with this question in mind is like, okay, what is the burden of air pollution on health, on mortality, for example? So this means that I am calculating how many people are dying because of the current levels of air pollution. And this is usually done making a calculation versus the lowest level of air pollution that we have in the planet. So if you have a level of 30 in a city, in a country, they will calculate the burden doing this level with a cutoff of 2.4, more or less. Okay, while before in the impact assessment from a level of 30, we are interested in a reduction of 10%, or we are interested in a reduction of 20%, or we are interested, there is a lockdown, nobody because of COVID can circulate with cars. For 1 year, we are interested in an abatement of air pollution of 60%. So that's an impact analysis kind of assessment. And the second question is also related to the fact that usually the burden of disease calculations are done at the country level, and they're done for comparison. So the burden of disease calculations are done standardizing the data for all the different countries, and so you can compare how the countries are performing in relation to air pollution and health. And that's a kind of very specific kind of calculations that is done by a restricted number of people, and I would say no more than 5%. Again, here are interested in these kind of calculations. And then the third is about carcinogenic air pollutants calculation. So this is the welcome screen, and I think you have already an idea of how the software now it is organized. I think it's important because the organization of the software came with the idea that we have to have a simple interface. So people should not be lost since the beginning. They should know what they're going to do. And now with this workshop, I'm going really, I'm repeating things several times in order you to have a clear idea, a clear picture of RQ+. Now with the software that RQ+ that I'm using now, I've already done some analysis, and I will delete them. So if I go here on this side, I have a menu where you see a plus button. I have a delete button. Then there is a copy button. There is this is export button. Here there is a comparison button. You will see it later. And here there is a filter, so I can organize my my project in different ways. So, for example, I've done different analysis here, and I can organize them here. You see in by pollutant, for example, or I can organize them by location or by the moment I've done the analysis. So this is the I think it's important, because if you do many analyses, you will get mad if they're not well organized. So I've started just showing you how you can organize projects. What I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna delete all the projects that I have already done, because I don't need them here. So we need to work with an empty software, exactly the software that you have in front of you. I don't know if many of you have the software available, and I can run now. In the next 10 minutes, I will run one analysis. So very quickly, I will do a full analysis of a real situation for a real case. And in order to do so, I also go back to the slide. So I don't know if there are questions. Again, if anything is not clear, if I'm going too quickly, if something you have in mind that you don't understand in relation to the things I've said, please raise your hand. Don't be shy. All the questions are important and relevant. Okay. So what I'm gonna do now in the next 10 minutes is a full calculation for the mortality, the impacts of mortality in one country where I know the levels of air pollution. So I have an average level of air pollution, but this can be a country, can be a region, whatever. So that the important thing now is to understand the logic, and also quickly. I will try to do it quickly. So we have the levels of air pollution is 11.62. We know also the mortality rate there for the adults, that is 1,552 per 100,000. The population exposed is 81 million people. And we know also the population of adults. And we will work with a cutoff point of 10, that is current air quality guidelines recommended value for PM2.5. And we also choose a risk of 1.06, that it means an increase of 6% of the risk of dying for every increase of 10 microgram per cubical meter of PM2.5. So these are the data that I need to input in the software. So we go back to RQ+. We are interested then in modeling the situation of one country going from the level of 11.62 to a level of 10. So it's not a big difference. And we are interested in this kind of analysis, then it's an health impact analysis. So here you see that we are working with ambient air pollution, and we can choose our pollutant is PM2.5. We have the data for PM2.5. I'm sorry, I'm not good in Cyrillic, and I'm going to write just city. No, sorry, country test. So this is what's happening now, and so we have ambient air pollution, and we have long-term or short-term effects. We work on PM2.5, and I said, okay, once I've done okay, I have now to work with two screens, and they're very simple to use. Now we'll do the calculation quickly, and then when we meet again at 2 o'clock, I think your time, we will analyze what we have done, and we will do more calculations, okay? So we are working with PM2.5, and we have a value, if I'm not wrong, was 11.62, and let me check, 11.62, yes. And the population, 81. Okay, so one thing that you see, I have now inserted also the population of 81 million people. And when I inserted the population, the field here is green. This means that it's correct. While here I have put 11.62 and it's red. It means that it's incorrect. What I made wrong is that in Russia, they don't use, you don't use the dot, the comma, you use the comma. So if I put 11.62, that is accepted. So the software uses also based on the different languages, the way people divide numbers. And that's very important for people that are doing programming. You know how crazy it is when you have all these different digits with a comma, with a point, with a semicolon, you get mad. So I have done already now the first two things. I have put, you remember the first ingredient that I have, air pollution and population. So I am there, and I don't know the year that I've done the calculation here. I think it's 2019. I put 2019, but this does not matter for the calculation. We'll see later when we will analyze what we have done. So now I wanna just do the calculations for you. So this is the levels of air pollution, 11.62. This is the population that is exposed to this level, 81 million. You remember my slide on that I was presenting before, and I have already put the levels of air pollution and the total population. Now, the other thing that I have to do, if you remember well, was the mortality rate in this case, because I want to work with mortality. So I said, okay, let's go to the next step. Let's create an impact analysis. And so I have clicked here to this button here on the bottom. This is the of the screen. This is the bottom. I have a click. And after I click that button, I enter here on the, I call it impact of PM2.5 on adult mortality. Okay. So what I'm interested here and is the mortality for people you see that it's a natural mortality. So not people that were killed by a gun, or they were committed suicide, or they were killed in a road accident. And so that's a natural mortality that we're interested for adults more than 30 years old, okay? So what we are interested is calculating how much of the mortality will be decreased the moment we decrease from 11 to 10. And 11 comes back here. You see at the bottom, we have the levels of air pollution. But the other thing that we need to put is the mortality for the population that we have. And if you remember from the slides, was 1,552 per 100,000. Here we have we are inserting the mortality of the adults population for this country. And but this mortality is, if you remember the slide, is related to the adults. While at the beginning, I have inserted the total population of the whole country. And so I have to correct now the data for the population. And I know that the population of adults is 56,909,969. So you see, I have changed now. Before, let me copy this. So this is the number of people that are adults in that population is 69.54%. So it's almost 70% of the population of the country are adults, okay? And we go back on this when we analyze the data later, when we will back after the coffee break. But this is quite important. Now we have put all the data. The only thing missing here is the risk. And by default, we have a suggestion to use this 6% increase every 10 microgram per cubical meter increase in the concentration. And we are using, so this suggested risk, and we are using here a reference value that we consider the value where we had no effect or is a target value of 10. So we are ready for our first calculation. This is less than 10 minutes at the end. And I click here, you see, for the calculation of the results. And what I have got is the fact that with this level of 11.62, there is not very high levels of air pollution, because there are places where the levels of air pollution are much, much higher. But in this place, with 80 million people living, this is a real case, as I was mentioning before. Every year, there is 565 people prematurely dying because of air pollution. This is a quite a big number. It's not a small number. So there is a small, you see, a small, there is a small gap between the levels of air pollution that we have and the levels we are targeting. So, for example, if we have a policy of, I don't know, on transport to have an improvement in technology of cars, for example, and we expect to go from 11, the whole country, 0.62 to 10, we expect to have also in 1 year a benefit in terms of premature mortality avoided of 8,000 for 8,000 people. So it's a big number with a small gap in air pollution. So something that is achievable in any case. And we have also more detailed results that we can show. And here you see the same elaboration put in a graph, the same results output put in a graphical format. And here you see in this screen, there is the results with the calculations done practically with all the fields that they were used for the software to do all the calculations. So if you want to redo it in Excel, you can also redo it, or in another program, whatever program you want to use. And what else? Here I have the shape of the curves of the relative risk. And what is important, I think, that you see that we have to work with two screens. One screen when I put the air pollution levels and the population. Another screen where I have to put the health endpoint and I have to check the population. Then I identify a cutoff value here, and I use a relative risk. So in 2 screens, we have produced our first analysis. We will go after the coffee break again through this analysis. We will go in the detail of the use of the software, and we will do a more advanced also analysis. And I am open also to do analysis with you with data that you may have. So think about it. We can have some more detailed discussions later. I don't know if there are questions. Okay, I cannot see the chat, but I don't know if there are questions or if there are comments in the chat.
No, there wasn't any question.
Okay. Okay, let's meet again in 1 hour.